everyone, and welcome back to Claire's Circle. Today, we're going to talk about the baggage we inherit. Not our own suitcases, packed with our own mistakes and experiences, but the heavy, dusty trunks passed down from generation to generation in our families. What happens when you're asked to fight in a war that started 100 years before you were born? What if the price of peace in your new family is to participate in an old, meaningless feud? This story comes from a subscriber named Eleanor. She's pregnant, and her unborn child has unwittingly become the latest soldier in a multi-generational family feud that she wants no part of. Eleanor describes her love story with her husband, James, as something out of a romantic movie. She was a city girl, and he was a guy from a charming, picturesque small town called Maple Creek. They met in the metropolis, where they both worked, and fell deeply in love. After a few years, James, who dreamed of returning to his roots, convinced her to move back to his hometown. And Eleanor fell in love too, with Maple Creek's quiet streets, with its close-knit community, with the idea of raising children far from the noise of the city. Another happy coincidence was that her childhood friend, Sarah, had also moved back to the same town after getting married. They hadn't seen each other since high school, and this reunion was a true gift for Eleanor. In an unfamiliar place, she had a close friend who wasn't connected to her husband's family. It was through this friendship that she first learned about the war, the feud between her husband's family, the Davidsons, and her friend Sarah's family, the Griffins. At first, it seemed like a quaint local legend. James told her about it one of the first evenings after she moved. "Just so you know," he said, "we Davidsons don't speak to the Griffins. Ever." The story went back to the time of their great-grandfathers. James's great-grandfather and Sarah's great-grandfather had been best friends and business partners. They founded a timber mill together, which was the heart of the town. But during the Great Depression, as the Davidson legend goes, the Griffin great-grandfather cheated his partner, pulled some kind of scheme with a land deal, and left the Davidson great-grandfather bankrupt and with massive debts. The Davidsons lost everything. The Griffins, on the other hand, became the wealthiest family in the county. Since then, a chasm filled with bitterness and mutual accusations has separated the two families. Generation after generation, the children of both families were taught that the other side was the enemy. They didn't attend the same churches, they didn't frequent the same shops, their children didn't play together. It was a cold war that had become part of the cultural code of Maple Creek. Eleanor was shocked when she realized her best friend Sarah was one of those Griffins. When she told James, they had their first major fight. He demanded that she stop seeing Sarah. "You don't understand," he said. "You're a Davidson now. You can't be friends with a Griffin. My father would never stand for it." Eleanor flatly refused. She said that a fight between their great-grandfathers a century ago had nothing to do with her and that she wasn't going to give up her only friend in town because of some old prejudice. They reached a shaky, unspoken compromise. She could see Sarah, but secretly. Never invite her to the house, never mention her name in the presence of her husband's family, especially his domineering father, Robert, who was the main keeper of the family hatred. And so her friendship with Sarah went underground. When Eleanor and James announced their pregnancy, the Davidson family was ecstatic. The family patriarch, Robert, hosted a large dinner where he gave a solemn speech about the next generation of Davidsons who would carry on their proud legacy in Maple Creek and solidify their position. Eleanor felt the weight of her family's legacy being placed on her unborn child. The first disaster struck when Eleanor was 5 months pregnant. Visibly pregnant, she was sitting with Sarah in the only decent coffee shop in town. They were laughing, discussing baby names. At that moment, her father-in-law, Robert, walked past the window. He didn't come in, he didn't wave, he just stopped for a second, gave her a look as cold as ice, and walked on. That evening, a hurricane erupted at the Davidson house. Robert held an interrogation. He accused Eleanor of betrayal, of disrespecting the family's history and the suffering of their ancestors. He said her friendship with a Griffin was a stain of shame on the reputation of their unborn grandchild. James tried to defend her, but under his father's pressure, he quickly folded. The conversation ended with James taking Eleanor aside and pleading, "Ellie, please, just stop seeing her until after the baby is born, just for the sake of peace for me." Eleanor felt betrayed twice. First by her father-in-law, and then by her own husband. She refused. She said that she would not allow herself and her child to be dragged into this toxic game. As a result, her relationship with her husband's family became even more strained. She felt like an outcast. Her only escape, her only breath of fresh air in this suffocating little world of old grudges were her secret meetings with Sarah. Sarah, unlike everyone else, didn't try to judge her. She just listened, offered support, and brought her funny magazines about motherhood. The baby shower was another trial. Her mother-in-law hosted it, and it was an event for Davidsons and approved friends only. Sarah, of course, was not invited. During the party, Robert gave another toast. He spoke about the importance of loyalty and about raising the child with the right values, looking pointedly at Eleanor. She felt like she was on trial. The final confrontation came a few weeks before her due date. Sarah, knowing she couldn't visit, left a gift on their doorstep, a beautiful hand-knit baby blanket. Later that day, her mother-in-law stopped by. She saw the blanket and froze. It turned out everyone in Maple Creek knew the specific knitting pattern the women of the Griffin family used. It was their signature. The mother-in-law immediately reported it to her husband. That evening, the final confrontation took place. Robert and James sat across from a heavily pregnant Eleanor, and her father-in-law delivered the ultimatum. This child will bear the Davidson name. He will have nothing to do with the Griffins. You will immediately cease all contact with that woman, now and forever. You will throw out her gift. If you cannot do this, then you have no place in this family, and you are teaching our grandchild to be a traitor from the start. Eleanor looked at her husband. She waited for him, in this decisive moment, to finally stand up, to show some backbone and defend her. She waited for him to tell his father that he was crossing every line. Instead, James looked at her with pleading eyes and said, "Eleanor, please, just do it. It's my family. It's our child's family. It's just one friend." And in that moment, Eleanor knew that her husband would never choose her side against his family and their toxic history. She knew she was facing the prospect of raising her child in an atmosphere of this inherited hatred, forced to abandon the only person in this town who was a true friend to her. She ended her letter with this question. "My husband is asking me to choose between my only friend and his entire family. His father is demanding that I participate in a hateful feud that I find repulsive. They are using my unborn child as a pawn in their ancient war. Am I the asshole for refusing to cut off my friend, even if it means my child might grow up estranged from their grandparents and my marriage might collapse under the strain?"